Okay, so let's start with our lecture. So today we start with a new lecture, that is the sericulture. So what is the sericulture? What are the terminologies related to sericulture? I am audible now?
Yes, sir, you are
Hello?
audible.
Okay. So today we see what is the sericulture, what are the terminologies which are related to sericulture, as well as what is the history of the sericulture. So many things we learned in today's lecture regarding the sericulture. So we start with our lecture. So here, so what is the sericulture? So sericulture means the rearing of the silkworm for the production of raw silk. Okay. Sericulture means the rearing of the silkworms, different types of the silkworms. There are different types, mostly the four major types of the silkworms are reared in India. Rearing, such type of the rearing of the silkworm is called as the for the production of the raw silk, and this is called as the sericulture. So what are the different terminologies which are related to sericulture? One by one we see. So first one is the moriculture. So what is the moriculture? Moriculture means the cultivation of the mulberry plants. Okay. Moriculture means the cultivation of the mulberry plants. So for the purpose of the sericulture, when we go for the rearing of the silkworms required the leaves for the feeding purpose, particularly the mulberry silkworms. When we go for the rearing of the mulberry silkworm, so for the mulberry silkworm, we required the mulberry leaves as a food to the mulberry silkworms. So for that purpose, we can cultivate the mulberry plants in our field, and such cultivation of the mulberry plants in our field is called as the moriculture. So then next one is the cocoon. So you know the cocoon, what is the cocoon? The protective covering made by the leaves of the insect belong to the group of moths and butterflies. Okay, is called as the cocoon. Then after the dupion. So what is dupion? Dupion means an irregular rough silk reeled from the double cocoons. Irregular rough silk which is reeled from the double cocoons and green cocoons. So green cocoons means the freshly harvested cocoons with the live pupa inside. Okay, freshly harvested cocoons with live pupa are called as the green cocoon. Then inherited genetics. So you know the characters of the genetic characters are transmitted from the parents to offsprings is called as the inherited genetics. Then next is the character integument. So character integument means the outermost layer of the insect body is called as the integument, character integument. Then metamorphology during the life cycle, the metamorphosis. Then mountage. Mountage means a device used for the support of the making the cockroach. When the silkworms start the cocoon making, that time they required the support, and we provide some support for the to the silkworm for the making of the cocoon. Such a support is called as the mountage. Then next one is the raw silk. Raw silk means the fiber made with the combination of filaments from the several cocoons. It's called as the raw silk. Then the reelers. Reelers means those peoples are engaged, or those are convert the cocoons into the silk yarn. Such peoples are called as the reelers. Means what do they convert the cocoons into the silk yarn. These peoples, those are engaged to the cocoons into the silk yarn. are called as the reelers. Such peoples are called as the reelers. Then urination. Urination means the excretion of the water before the formation of cocoons from the silkworm is called as the urination. So these are the some terminologies which are related to sericulture. So then next one is the history of the sericulture. So what is the history of the sericulture? So the Ji Lingxi, it is known as the goddess of the silk. And the Chinese, they maintain the secret. The sericulture, the habit of the Chinese peoples, they always maintain the secrets. So likewise, they also maintain the sericulture as a secret up to 3,000 years. Then after, when this is when we know about the sericulture, when the Chinese princess which married to the king of the Tibet, that is Khotan, and that time she carried the mulberry and the silkworm seeds on her head apparel. Some we come to know about the sericulture. Yes, yes. Then from Tibet, it is reported to have this spread to India. From Tibet to India, it comes in India from the Tibet. Then after the first, it started. Firstly, this sericulture is started in the foothills of the Himalaya, and then it started at West Bengal. When it comes in India, so first of all, it start at the foothills of the Himalayan. Then after it comes into the West Bengal, and mostly British in India, they give much important to the sericulture. Okay, then in 1769, East India Company introduced a new reeling machine from England for the reeling of the silk. For that purpose, they import the one new reeling machine from England in 1769. Then after in 1770, the Bengal government obtained new silkworm breeds and mulberry varieties from China. Okay, Bengal government they opt and the mulberry varieties from China. Then after in 1770, first villager. Okay, first villager Murshidabad in West Bengal. And in 1785, the Tipu Sultan, king of the Mysore, father of Mysore silk. He is act as the father of Mysore silk, and he sent the people. He sent the peoples from Mysore to West Bengal for the learning purpose of the sericulture. He sent the peoples for the learning about this for sericulture. He sent them into West Bengal, and then after, so that he is called as the father of Mysore silk. And he also established a sericulture unit in Mysore Kingdom. And in 1860, the first villager in Karnataka was established. Villager, the industry regarding the sericulture, which established in Karnataka, particularly in Bengaluru, by Italian industrialist. So first industry in Karnataka, which is established by the Italian industrialist in 1860. Then in 1860 to 19, many crossbreeds were developed. Okay, many crossbreeds of the silkworms are developed. Then after in 1870s, outbreak of pebrine disease. So this is the protozoan disease which harmful to the silkworms. The outbreak mostly outbreaks in 1870, which wiped the industries in West Bengal and Jammu Kashmir. So from West Bengal and Jammu Kashmir, the sericulture was mostly disturbed by this protozoan disease, that is febrile, in 1870. Then after in Mysore, the industry sustained due to the strain Mysore local, which is tolerant to the febrile. So you remember the tolerant strain of the silkworm, that is the Mysore local. Okay. Then in 1896, J. N. Tata, the Jamshedji Tata, he established the sericulture farm and furniture unit with the Mulberry Garden at Bangalore in Japanese form. Okay. Then in 1912, um, M. Vishweswaraya, he hired the service of the Signor Washington Mari, which is an Italian sericulturist for the sericulture industry in Mysore. He hired his services for the sericulture industry in Mysore. Then in 1914, the Signor Washington Mari, he shifted the headquarters from Mysore to Bangalore. Okay, he shifted this headquarters of the sericulture from Mysore to Bangalore, and then after in 1914, the Department of Sericulture was started in Karnataka in 1914. Again, the Signor Washington Mari became a first director of sericulture of Mysore. Okay. In 1999, the Mysore Kingdom, which employed the Japanese scientist to carry out the experiment, okay, related to silkworm threads. And in 1936, the spun silk industry, which is established in Chennapattana. Then in 1940, all India and decision was taken to expand the area of sericulture in India, which decision is taken in 1940, and the All India Sericulture, which was held during in Lucknow at that time. In 1943, the first sericulture research station, which is established at Berhampur in West Bengal, and which is established by the British government. Then in 1961, the research station was elevated as a central sericulture research and training institute, Berhampur in West Bengal, that is CSRTI in Mysore, Pambor in Kashmir. Okay. Then after, during at present, the 23 Indian states are involved in the production of silk. Among these, the Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, then Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Jammu and Kashmir are traditional states, and other are non-traditional sericulture states. Okay. Like this, the 23rd three Indian states which are involved in the production of the silk. So, the types of silk. So, what are the types of the silk? So, first one is the mulberry silk moth. Sorry, the types of this silk moth. So, first one is the mulberry silk moth. Then second one is the tussar silk moth. Then third one is the Muga silk moth, and fourth one is the iris silk moth. So in India, these four types of the silk moths are rare, particularly. So mulberry silk moth, the scientific name of this silk moth, silkworm type of silk that is the mulberry silk, and which is produced from the mulberry plant, mulberry silk moth, that is the Bombay scientific name. So for the Bombay we required the host plant Morosalva, then Morostica, Morosreta, Moros latifolium of the mulberry silk moth. Antheria milleta, the host plant for the Antheria tomentosa, that is Assam, then Terminalia arjuna, that is Arjun, then Shoria robusta, that is Sal, and mostly there's a tropical tassar silk moth, which is distributed in a tropical forest zone, which is ranging from the Bihar, Jharkhand to Karnataka. Then next one is the temperate tassar silk moth. Temperate tassar silk, which is produced from the worm, that is the Atheria prolly and Atheria royally. For that, the oak mostly used as a host plant, and which is distributed from the in southern region and northeastern India. Then next one is the Moga silk, which is scientific name of this Moga silk is the Atheria asama, which is the host plant for Atheria asama are the som and salo, and mostly they are distributed in Brahmaputra Valley. And last bit, the Iri silk, which is obtained from the Iri silkworm, that is the Philosamia ricini. And for Iri silkworm, the rearing of Iri silkworm, we require the host plant, that is Castor ricinus communis, that is Kesari, and which is mostly distributed in Assam and northeastern parts of the India. So first one is the Marbury silkworm. The Marbury silk, the bulk of the commercial silk which is produced from the this species only, uh, and this silk is called as the Marbury silk. And Mulberry silk comes from the silkworm, that is Bombax mori, that is Mulberry silkworm, and which is solely feed on the leaves of the mulberry plants. And these silkworms are completely domesticated and reared indoors. Okay, it is not possible to outdoor. It will be reared in using sticks. Particularly mulberry silkworm is reared in Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, and Jammu Kashmir. And they produce up to 92% of the country's total mulberry raw silk. Okay. Then next one is the tassar silkworm. So this tassar is a copperish colored coarse silk mainly used for furnishing and interiors. Uh, this type of silk is less lustered than the mulberry silk, but has its own feel and appeal. Then the trussar silk, which is generated by the silkworm, that is the Atheria mellita, and which is mainly thrive on the food plants Assam and Arjun. And the rearing are conducted in nature on trees in open. Okay, so in case of the mulberry silkworm, it is rare indoor only, not outdoor. But here the tropical tassar silkworm, which is rare on nature on tree in open. And in India, mostly this type of the silk produced from the Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Orissa, and besides some part of the Maharashtra, West Bengal, and Andhra Pradesh also. And this tassar culture is mainstay for many a tribal community in India. The next one is the temperate or oak tassar silkworm. So this silk mostly generated from the silk is generated from the silkworm, that is the Atheria prolly, So in India, which feed on natural food plants of oak, found in abundance in the sub-Himalayan belt of the India, covering the states Manipur, Himachal Pradesh, then Uttar Pradesh, then Assam, Meghalaya, and Jammu Kashmir. So the China is the major producer of the old tassar in the world, and this comes from the another silk which is known as the Atheria Parnei. Okay, then the Muga silkworm. So this Muga silkworm, this golden yellow colored silk, which is a prerogative of India and the pride of Assam states, and which obtained from the silkworm, that is the Atherias assamensis, which is multi-voltine species. So in next lecture, next or some next slides, what is the volcanism. I will tell you what is the volcanism in next slides or in next lecture. This silkworm feed on the aromatic leaves of the somalia to the tassels. They are their own open spaces. Then the Muga culture is specific to the state of the Assam and an integral part of the traditional and cultural culture of that states. Then the Muga silk high value product is used products like the saris, then the mekhalas, chadars. Likewise, for that purpose, this Muga silk mostly used. The next one is the Iri silkworm. So they also known as the Indi or the Irandi. This also multi-voltine silk that spoons from open-ended cocoons, unlike other varieties of the silk, and which is obtained from the silkworm, that is the Philasamia ricin, that feed mainly on the castor leaves. And agriculture is a household activity practiced mainly for the protein-rich pupil, delicate for the tribal. Okay, so these tribals are also feed these cocoons of this iris silk as a feed. Then resultantly, the iris cocoons are mouthed and are spun. The silk is used indigenously for the preparation of the chadars. Okay, then in India, this culture mostly is practiced in northeastern states and Assam only. And it is also found in Bihar, Bengal, and Orissa. Okay. So next one is the Holtinism. So what is the Holtinism? So it is the ability of silkworm races to produce one to several generations per year is called as the Holtinisms. Okay. So Holtinism means the produce the generations, one to several generations in a year. It is the ability of the silkworm. So this voltinism is again three types. There are the three types of the voltinism. First one is univoltine, means their species produce one generation in a year. Such species are called as the univoltine species of the silkworm. Then bivoltine. So some species they are produce two generation per year, are comes under the bivoltine races. And third one is the multivoltine. Multivoltine means they produce the several more than the two generations in a year, and comes under the multivoltine races. So this is the voltinism. Voltinism means the ability of the silkworm races to produce one to several generations. And this voltinism again three types. First one is the univoltine, second one is the bivoltine, and third one is the multivoltine. So univoltine means the species of the silkworm, they produce only one generation in a year, or comes under the multivoltine races. Then the species, they produce two generation in a year, or comes called as the bivoltine races. And multivoltine races means These species, they produce more than two generations in a year, are called as the multi-voltine races. So univoltine races, what are the characters of the univoltine races? They produce only one generation in a year. Then when you take the weight of the larvae, which is comparatively higher than the cocoons, higher, and cocoons are heavy. Okay, comparatively higher, and cocoons, weight of the cocoon also heavy. Then the denier. Denier means the unit to measure the filaments of the silk is called as the denier. Of the silk filament is about 2.3. Then the which is not suitable for summer. This type of the strains or this type of the races are not suitable for summer and winter rearing, since the larvae are weak against the unfavorable conditions. Okay, and they lay only diapause eggs. Okay, and all the European races are the univoltine. So these are the characters of the univoltine races. Then bivoltine races. So bivoltine races, they produce one two generations here. Then the length of the larval period is short. Here the length of the larval period is short because they produce two generation in a year. Then ultimately it affect on the larval period. So larval period is short as compared to the univoltine races. Then the leaf consumption of the cocoon production is less. Leaf consumption to cocoon production is less, and the quality of the cocoon is inferior to that of the univoltine races. When you compare with the univoltine races, then the quality of the cocoons is inferior. And then the weight, cocoon weight, shell weight, and silk percentage and filament length lesser than the univoltine races. And most of the temperate races are bivoltine and lay both type of the eggs. They lay both type of the eggs, the hibernating and non-hibernating eggs. And the examples of that races are the NB4D2, then NB18, KA, and NB7. These are the bivoltine races, example of the bivoltine races. Then multivoltine races. The characters in that characters, they produce more than two generations per year. Then the larval period is too short as compared to univoltine and bivoltine races. And then the multivoltine, most of the multivoltine races, leaf cocoon ratio is high. Length of the filament is short. Then the cocoon filament is fine and clean with little loosiness, but with more lusters. And the larvae are robust and can tolerate fluctuation in environmental condition, and hence these multi-voltine races are suitable for the tropical climates, and they lay only diapause eggs. And the examples of these multi-voltine races are the pure Mysore, Siniche, and Mosa Mysore. These are the some examples of the multi-voltine races. So then next one is the biology of the silkworm. So first stage, biology means the life cycle of the silkworm. So its biology life cycle, the comes from the undergoes the four stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adults. So first stage is the eggs. So they give their eggs at night, in night in clusters under the surface of the mulberry leaf. And one female can give 300 to 400 eggs, popularly as called as the, and such eggs are called as the silk seeds. Okay, and the eggs are small, pale white in color, and seed or silk seeds. So at the time of hatching, they become a black. When time of the hatching is coming, that time they become a black, and hatching, they hatch means the incubation period required 10 to 12 days during summer, and it will be long during winter, that is up to 30 days. And in univoltine races, the eggs do not hatch during the winter, but they remain in hibernation. Therefore, one generation is found in year in such cases. So, such type of the races are European races, European country, and contrary to this, 2 to 7 generation are found in multivoltine races. Then the larva. So larva molt means they shave it, cast their skin up to 4 times. So first shading is after the 6 days, second one is after the 12 days, then the third one is after the 18 days, and fourth one is after 26 days. So likewise they undergo for the 4 time molts 4 time. Then larval period is up to 42 days. After the cessation of feeding, the caterpillars start the spinning the cocoons. When they stop the feeding and they start the spinning of the cocoons around itself and composed of single continuous thread of or silk, which is up to when you measure the length of this thread is up to 800 to 1200 meters in length. Then the silk is produced at the rate about the 15 centimeter per minute. Okay, the silk production rate is 15 centimeter per minute from the and the cocoon built about in 3 days. Then the caterpillars then pupate inside the cocoon 6 days after it's constructed. Okay. The next one is the pupa. So this pupal period ends into 10 to 12 days and cocoon built in 3 days. So there are the different types of the pupas, cocoons. First one is the double cocoons. So what is double cocoons? Double cocoons means the two larvae by mistakenly they spin a single cocoons is called as the double cocoon, and such type of cocoons are unsuitable for reeling purpose. Then green cocoon means the live pupa inside that cocoon is called as the green cocoon. Just such type of the pupa just after the harvesting mostly found. Seed cocoons mean the cocoon of the pure grasses is known as the seed cocoons that are used for the production of the eggs per egg. Okay, such cocoon are called as the seed cocoon. Then stippling. Stippling means the process of the killing of the cocoons. Okay, it's called as the stippling. Then next stage is the adults. So these adults are live up to 3 to 6 days, and the whole life cycle is complete in 7 to 10 weeks, and 1 to 6 generations per year mostly found in case of the silicon. So this is all about the sericulture. So is there any difficulty? Kindly ask me.